Hello, good morning to you. I hope you're doing well today. I'm going to be making what I've called Meryl crystal bracelets. So we are doing a bit of stitching. I'm going to be doing a right angle weave stitch. I'm also going to be using some memory wire, and I'm also going to be using some weaving wire, which is a 0.4 or a 26 gauge, 26 gauge American wire gauge, just to do some wrapping over at the end of it. So we've got lots of lovely colours for you to choose from today, lots of gorgeous crystals. I'm using crystal rondelles and crystal bicones. So you can choose what metal you would like, whether you want it to be gold or silver, and you can choose all the different colours of your bicones as well. If you want to get the kits today, we have the offer still on. So there's a little offer on at the moment for shopping vouchers, and apparently Simon said the offer will end today. So it's spend £25 and get £5 off with the code TREAT5, or you can spend £40 and get £10 off with TREAT10. And each of your kits today is going to make 2 bracelets. So I'm going to take you over to the website now, and I'm going to show you the kits, and then we'll say a quick good morning, and then we'll get making. I've done parts of this in stages, so you're not going to you'll see the whole thing, but you don't have to sit and watch me do the same thing over and over and over and over again. So let me take you over to the website. We are, of course, totallybeads.co.uk. This is where we share the kits. So if you would like to watch back on videos and you would like to make along with us, then you can do so here. There's lots of ways to get into the video tutorial section. I'm just going to click on this logo here on the main screen, and then I will show you all of the things we've been making. Today's is the Meryl Crystal Memory Bracelet. So lots of different techniques in this one make. As I say, we're doing a little bit of stitching with some nylon thread. You can use a different thread if you want to. I'm just going to go around those units again just to kind of strengthen it up, but I'm using the nylon and I think it works really, really well. It's clear, so it's like an invisible thread, you can't see it. And then we're going to be mounting it onto what we're going to create a frame for the bracelet with the memory wire, and then adding that extra little detail in with that weaving wire as well. So all of the kits today are £6.99, and they're going to make 2 bracelets. So if I have a quick scroll here, you can see all the lovely colours. So we've got some in gold and some in silver, and there's 2 different ways you can finish your ends of your bangles as well. They are more of a bangle than a bracelet because they don't go all the way around, there's no clasp, but if you wanted to create loops at the end of this, you can add a clasp for additional security. You can add on some additional bicones. I've added enough in your kit that you can add those on as the end, or you can just turn loops with them, but I'll explain all that as we go. So we've got the blue here, and I'll show you the measurements. So I'm using the memory wire, which is 0.6, which is a 22 gauge. Your memory wire is stainless steel, I think, so it's very, very strong. It retains its shape, it keeps that coil, so it's perfect for making a frame like this and creating those bangles. But you are going to need some either memory wire cutters or some heavy duty cutters to make sure you're going through that tempered steel. It's tempered steel, I think I said stainless, didn't I? So you're going to go through that tempered steel with some heavy duty cutters. Don't be using your normal wire cutters because you'll affect their use in the future. I'm using crystal rondelles and bicones. So the bicones I'm using are 4mm and the crystal rondelles are 4x6. These are the light blue AB and the light blue bicones. The nylon is 0.25mm. Your copper wire is silver in this colourway, and that's a 0.4, which is a 26 gauge wire. And of course you've got your memory wire there, which is silver as well. So the blue is going to be on the silver colourway. We have the champagne, which is particularly lovely. I'm loving this today. You can, of course, if you want, multi-buy, and you could mix these up. I think the champagne would look gorgeous with the orange. If you wanted to use the bicones from one and then the rondelles from another, you could absolutely do that. This one's on the gold colourway, all the same size of your components, 4x6 rondelles and 4mm and premium crystal bicone beads here. They're in champagne and dark champagne AB. And you can see how this looks. So your memory wire is going to match the wire that's wrapping around the front. It is a quite straightforward make. It's a little bit time consuming, really, just because you're doing those separate steps with your stitching and then your wrapping, but it's a lovely make. This is your opal, which is on silver. So again, you've got those 4x6 rondelles in opal and your bicones are white opal. That's how your silver looks with that lovely opal colour. This is your orange, very zesty. So I'm just matching there your bicones with the crystal rondelle. So I've got dark orange in the premium crystal 4mm bicones and the crystal rondelles 4x6 are orange AB, and they look very lovely, I think, on the gold. Bringing those warm tones out. And then we also have the peridot, which is on gold, which looks like this. And if you want to see the components that we're adding in, you can just scroll to the bottom. So I'm using light green on both of those rondelles and bicones, all the same size. And lastly, we have the pink as well. And the pink is on the silver. So silver memory wire and silver weaving wire using the pink AB and the rose crystal bicones. So don't forget, if you want to take advantage of the offer, it does end today. Spend £25, get £5 off. That's, as far as I'm aware, everything online today on the website. And you're using the code TREAT5 to get £5 off, or TREAT10 will give you £10 off if you spend over 40. So there are lovely bracelets. Let me know in the comments which one do you like the look of. Would you like to multi-buy and would you mix those colours up? Because of the amount of bicones that I had, I'm going to do a little bit of all sorts today. So I'm going to show you the blue. I'm going to show you some of the stitch in green. And then when it comes to doing the wrapping, I'm going to do that with a mix of the opal and the blue, I think, so you can see how they look if you want to mix your colours up. So that is that. Let me see what's going on in the comments. Oh, thanks, Jan. Just love the look of these. Hello to Carol. Hello to Edward. Good morning to Camille. Good morning to Jan in a warm Sudbury. It's going to be roasting today. Make sure you have your sun cream on if you're going out. Stay in the shade and keep cool. Jan's saying exactly that. Keep hydrated and keep cool. She says she loves the look of these. Good morning to Sheila. Hello to Joanne in a warm Coventry. She says she's got beautiful blue skies. Good morning to Mina. And hello to Kath. It looks like we are working on all platforms today, which is really good. So let's get making. Let me get showing you what we've got. So you can, I took this off to show you, when you're finishing your ends, this is the pretty pink one, you can use a little bit of jewellery glue and add on some little bicones as stopper beads at the end, just to cover those ends. So this one is the pink. Does look clear, but I promise you it's pink. We also have, I'll place that down here for now. We also have the opal, which I think would look gorgeous with the pink. That's on the silver. And I've just curled those ends. So if you wanted to, you could add a little chain or a clasp along the bottom. But how this bracelet's going to work, it's not going to fully finish if I put one of these ones on. It's just going to go around the wrist and meet there. It's not going to go all the way around. So you're getting like a bangle effect. So that one is the opal. You can see it's retaining its shape. I've not had to harden the wire because I'm using that memory wire. This one is the champagne, which is absolutely beautiful. I'm loving this one today. I think this one's possibly my favourite. And of course, because it's memory wire and it will retain its shape, you can make them longer or like bigger or smaller just by how much memory wire you're going to cut. So, you know, if I wanted to make it smaller, I could cut less. If I want it even larger to go further, I'm going to be able to cut that little bit longer if I need to. We have the very pretty blue. Again, I've just turned the ends out on that one. We have the gorgeous peridot green. They look really nice together, and they look nice stacked as well if you wanted to stack them up. And then lastly, we've got this gorgeous orange. Again, I've just popped little bicones on the end of there as a stopper. I think they would look particularly beautiful together if you wanted to mix up your colours. I think they would look particularly lovely, these two as well. You can do whatever you want. So these are the Meryl crystal bracelets. If you want to have a little look, you can head over to the website and you can get your kits. Rachel says, I'm loving the opal one. Right, so to start, I'm going to take my memory wire. I'm going to set this to the side in a bit. I'm just going to cut it to length. So as you can see, it's like a coiled spring. It opens up, it retains that shape. We want to keep that shape as much as we can, but what I want to do is I want to cut it to size. So I'm personally going to cut about 1 1/4 or 1 1/2. So I'm just going to come in again, use your heavy duty cutters or your memory wire cutters if you've got them, and then can you see how that's just got that little overlap there? I would rather cut too much and then cut it off again, any excess I don't need, than cut too small, because you can always adjust. So I've got those 2 coils, and that's what I'm going to be using to make my frame at the end after I've created my weave. So I'm going to start off doing my weave. My weave is just a right angle weave. So I'm going to take my nylon thread, which is in the kit, and I'm going to thread it onto a needle. I'm cutting about 150 centimetres of the nylon, which I think is about 60 inches. So I've got a very, very long piece. I appreciate you can't really see here because it's see-through, but that is the good thing about it. I don't think I need a board, but I might get one just so you can see how it looks. But you can see the shadow now of my camera. We do have a big lorry going past, if you can hear that noise in the back. So to start my right angle weave, which is going to be the stitch that runs through my centre, I'm going to take one of my rondelles, one of my bicones, a rondelle, and another bicone. And I'm going to bring this right down towards the end of my thread, but I am going to leave myself a tail end of probably about 5 inches maybe to work that back through at the end. So 4 beads on, I'm going rondelle, bicone. I'm going to pass this thread all the way up from the bottom. So I'm going to run it all the way back up again, going through all of the beads. And that is going to make me a little loop. What I want to do though is I want to bring it back through the rondelle again, just so we're going all the way round. Now what I do like to do is I like to just run it round a couple of times just to strengthen it up. So I'm going to take it all the way back through again. Now, depending on what you're using, I've put the nylon in here, and I think it gives me enough to pass back through the beads a few times to strengthen it up and retain that shape. But if you are using something a little more heavy duty, then you might not need to pass it back through. But I like to just firm it up a little bit. So I've got my little unit, which is looking like this. And now I'm going to work into the next unit. So to do that, I'm going to add on a bicone, a rondelle, and a bicone. And every time I add on now, I'm just doing bicone, rondelle, bicone. This is going to build onto my next unit on my right angle weave. So I'll hold this up for you. I'm going to pass back through that rondelle, like so. And then just to firm it up, I'm going to pass back through each bead. Now I go back through each bead individually, like one at a time. That tail end's probably going to get in the way, so I'll just move that out there. So I like to pass back through each bead individually rather than running through them all. So just give it a firm little pull as I go. And that will tighten it up. And then we're going to go back through the bicone at the top. I'm holding it at a very funny angle, just so I'm not covering it up too much. And then back through the rondelle. You can tighten this bit up later when I work that in. So again, I'm going to go bicone, rondelle, and the bicone. And I'm going to create my next little unit by bringing it back through the rondelle. And you can see I'm creating that next little loop, but I'm going to go through each one just to firm up. Now I'm going to do that for the length that I feel I want. Now of course it's not going to go round the whole of my wrist, but you probably want to make about 7 inches of this stitch. So I've used in total, I think I've used 27 rondelles and 52 bicones, and then left a couple of extra bicones, or 4 bicones, just for the ends if I wanted to make them as little kind of bead stoppers. So each time I'm just taking it round each bead again. And back up that side to add on the other. So I'm creating this. So you're going to keep going with that. Here's one I've made earlier. And again, I'm not going to do the full length of this, just enough to show you. So each time I'm adding on that extra unit, I'm going to add on a bicone, a rondelle, and a bicone, just 3 beads. I'm going to bring through the rondelle, give it a little pull, and then work my way back through each bead all the way round, just to tighten it up, strengthen that thread path, and pulling through one at a time. We'll just make sure I'm getting that tension nice. That's why I do like working with the nylon thread, because if I do get in a tangle, it's easy to unravel and it's nice and strong and visible. So I'll do one more of them. Bicone, rondelle, and the bicone, passing back through that side bead, which is the rondelle, and all the way back round. Just one more to tighten it up. So you want to do that until you've got the length that you're aiming for. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie off. So I'm going to tie off with some half hitch knots, What you want to make sure is when you do tie your knot that it's not blocking the exit holes of your bicone, or the rondelle really, but mainly the bicone. So I'm just going to bring it into a loop and pass it back through, and I kind of pull it towards the rondelle rather than the bicone, as I say, so it doesn't block that hole, because we're going to need that. And then you can work it back through. You can do a couple of half hitch knots if you want to, and you can work it back through your beads. Got nice sized drill holes in these beads, so you can afford to run that thread back through in a few different places. Again, if you want to do another one, so I'm just creating a little loop. I'll just move that tail end out. Let me show you. So I'm creating a little loop, if you can see here, there, and then I'll just pass the thread back through the loop, and that will create a little knot. Now it's sitting just above that bead, just there. So work it back through till you're happy, and I would move away from your knot really before you cut off. Back through this one, and then come in with my cutters or my scissors and trim the end. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Now, if I feel I'm struggling to thread my needle, my little tip for threading the needle with the nylon is just with your chain nose pliers or your tweezers nose pliers, whatever you're using, just press the end of it down, and then I should be able to get that through no problem. Look at me threading a needle on camera. So again, I'm just going to work that back through. Little half hitch knots, making sure it's not blocking the exit hole of the bicone. Move it away, and when you're happy, trim off. So you're left then with your gorgeous rondelles and bicones, and it's also got a little bit of a stretch to it because it's on that nylon. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start positioning it onto my memory wire. So I've got my 2 coils that I cut earlier, and I'm going to keep it in its coiled shape, and I'm just going to start to pass the memory wire just through the bicones. Now this can be a little bit fiddly, so you're just going to do it one by one and gradually line it up. I've got camera in my face as well, so that's a bit awkward, but if you can see, I'm just passing it through one row of the bicone. So I'm feeding it through, giving it a little wiggle and pushing it along, lining up the next one. And pushing it through, all the way along. If it helps, you can always take your pliers as well, and that can give you a little bit of purchase just to line it up through the bead. But I'm keeping that coiled shape, so I'm kind of holding it in its coil, lining it up and pushing it through. Just take your time with this. It is easy to do. I suppose I can show you all. I have got one I've made earlier, but given we're doing all right for time because I've done my stitching first, so you can just push it through each one, and that's going to start creating that frame. Got sun cream on my hands, so that's not helping. Pull it down, give it a little bit of a wiggle, line it up with the next, and then feed it through the end. As I say, it does stretch a little bit, so you can push it forward and backwards until you've got it lined up. This is why we don't want those knots or half hitch knots in our thread blocking the exit of the drill hole. Just feeding it through one at a time. Sometimes it'll line up and you might get it through a couple in one go. So we just push it a little bit, guide that in, and then feed it through at the bottom. Just kind of compress that weave down as you go. Almost there. Just push it back a bit to line it up. And push through to the next. I'm just feeding it round. A couple more to go. If I push too far, I'm just going to bring it back. You want to make sure it's going through every single one of those bicones on one side. And the last one, bringing it back. Avoiding that knot. So if my knot is in the way a little bit, I'm just going to reposition. Pull that thread out of the way a bit. And then push that through. So this is the fiddliest bit, but it does work and you will get there. Once you've got it through all of the sides of the bicone, I knew that knot was going to get in the way. Just going to move that thread a little bit. I'm not going to be too forceful with it because I don't want it to snap. Get me some purchase. Doesn't want to go. But you would push that through. Do it later. Once you've done and pushed it through, you want to get it kind of even into the middle. And then you want to take your other piece and you want to work that down the other side. So again, I'm keeping that coil and I'm pushing down between each one, just catching those bicones at the side, and I will bring all of that round. So I will have something like this. Hello to Heather. Debbie says this is pretty. Hello to Angela. Hope you're doing well. Good morning to Anna. So I've done my stitch. I've threaded through my memory wire and I'm having something that looks like this at this stage. So now it's time to work with the wire. So I'm going to take my 0.4 wire, which is a 26 gauge, and I'm going to cut about 110 centimeters, which I think is about 43 inches, perhaps. So I'm just going to straighten this out on my finger. I'm just going to use my ruler just to cut. I want a long length of this. I want to be able to cut off and not run out. So I want to use this as one full length. So I'm going to cut 3, 6, 9. That should do me. I've got about 110 centimeters of the 0.4 or 26 gauge wire. I'm just going to run that through my fingers because there is a couple of kinks in that bit there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it in my hand just to open it up. I'm going to pass that wire through that rondelle at one end. And I'm going to push it up and leave myself a little tail end. And I'm just going to wrap that around. Now what you'll find is I tend to do the wraps on this and they don't do anything other than just give it a symmetrical look. So this wrap is anchoring my wire into place, but the other wraps I do won't. It'll just be so it's symmetrical at both ends. So I'm just going to wrap that round 3 times. Pull that wire nice and tight so my wraps are looking fairly neat. Trim off the tail end of the wire with my normal cutters and use my chain nose or my tweezer nose just to make sure I've tucked that little tail end in so there's no scratchy bits. Now just for symmetry, I'm going to take this long tail end and I'm going to weave that up here 3 times just so it matches. You don't need to do this bit, but I like it to look the same on both sides and both ends of the bracelet. So I'm going to bring that through, wrap in once. It is difficult to work with the long tail ends sometimes when you've got a long length of wire, but bear in mind you won't be under a camera, so it shouldn't be as difficult for you. And then bringing that round twice. And once more just for symmetry. So I'm keeping that wire straight, and I'm bringing those wraps down so it's positioned the same on both sides. Just make sure your wire doesn't coil, and knock that wrap into the position you want it to be in. It's travelling up instead of travelling down, so I'm just going to knock it with my tweezers. There you go, with my pliers rather. So I've now got it coming out here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it, so I want it to be going across diagonally, so I'm bringing it up through the centre of the bracelet and next to those two bicones, and I'm wrapping it round, and I'm bringing that long length through the middle, and it's going to go across those next two bicones, and I'm bringing it through the middle. So we're kind of going like on a diagonal, across, around the middle. Just place that wire, it will sit lovely. The bicones will make sure all that spacing is where it needs to be. And if you want to, you can just do this one wrap. I think that looks very pretty. This doesn't do anything other than add a lovely little bit of detail to it. So I'm bringing it through the middle and across, through the middle, not concerned what it looks like on the back, just holding my bracelet. You want it shaped so your bracelet's sitting that way, it's not like, because it can twist. Can you see how I've made that twist? So you just want to make sure that it's sitting with your beads facing outwards. We're going to go across the top of each bicone, just bringing it round through the middle, keep wrapping all the way. All the way. Probably didn't need to do those wraps at the top because I'm going to work backwards and I'll need to tie it off. So if that's the case, if we get there and I realise I've made a slight mistake, then I'll just talk it through to you. So I'm going all the way to the end. Actually, no, I'm on course, don't worry. Bringing it round. So I'm going between the bicone, so kind of catching those three in the middle, up the middle, around the back until I get to the end here. Just open it out, and I'm going to wrap 1, 2, 3 for a little bit of symmetry. If you want to, you can pass it back through the bead. So give it a push down if you want to find that drill hole. And then just bring it through again. Just make sure that that wire isn't crossing over. So hold your bead in place while you pull that through nice and tight. You can tuck it down with your pliers as well if you want to neaten the wraps. And then just so I've got that symmetry again, I'm going to wrap around that side. Bringing it through. So you can turn your work around, you can turn the bangle so it's facing towards you if you like, if that's easier. just wrapping around, getting it just next to that bead. Again, this isn't doing anything here. You don't have to do these additional wraps. I just think it looks a little bit more symmetrical on the ends. And now I'm bringing that tail over and I'm going to cross back in the opposite direction. So I'm creating crisscrosses essentially with the wire. So I'm going back through the middle next to the bicone and the bicone on the other side. Try and keep that wire straight. So I'm doing crisscrosses with it through the middle, just wrapping it round, extra little bit of detail. And keeping it between my thumb and my finger just to keep it sitting and not twisting too much. All the way around, through the middle, over the end. You can see I'm not taking this particularly slowly because the wire is just going to sit nicely next to those bicones because it's a nice shaped bead. It's got that kind of flush side to it, so it just sits nicely. And I should have more than enough wire if I've cut, what did I say? I cut 110 centimetres, which I think is about 43 inches. And bear in mind, I've probably got, oh no, I think I did use the right amount of beads on this. So I'm going to bring it all the way back. Now what I did was I wrapped around, and I didn't need to. I needed to wrap the first one, but I didn't need to wrap here because I'm going to tie off now. So those wraps I'm going to be creating now anyway. You can pass it back through the bead if you want to, or just bring it behind it if it's easier. So didn't need to wrap on this side because I'm going to be wrapping now anyway, but it'll still look neat. I'm just going to wrap 3 times to anchor, trim off once it's secured, and make sure we tuck in those end bits. So you can see now I have my right angle weave stitch mounted onto my memory wire, and then the wire is just framing those beads. So it's up to you what you want to do with the ends. If you were to put little bead stoppers on the ends, like one I've done here, I've just used the extra bicones. So what I would do is I would just eye it up really. You could mark it with a pen where you need to cut. But what I would do is I would pop on my bicone and see where about that finishes. And then take a pen or a pencil and you can make a little mark on where that bead finishes. Because these beads have obviously got a drill hole that runs all the way through the end. I want to make sure that when I cut, and of course I'm going to be cutting with my memory wire cutters. I don't know where I put them. There they are. I'm going to be cutting with my memory wire cutters, my tempered steel. I don't want to cut it too long because I want it to sit nice and flush. So I want to make sure that when I do put the big bicone on, you can see there's nothing sticking out the end of there. That sharp end is being protected by the bicone. So I would use a little bit of jewellery glue. I'm using this one. It's got a little nozzle on the end. So it's got that needle tip finish, which means I'm going to get that precision. So what I would do is I would eye up where I wanted the bead. I would cut off at the point where I marked. I would then apply my jewellery glue to the end and then slide on my bicone and leave it to dry. and I would do that on all 4 ends. You can, of course, if you want, turn a loop with it. So if I'm turning a little loop, and you might want to make a clasp, I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail end just to give me enough to turn. So that's probably maybe 1 centimetre in length. Again, making sure I'm using my memory wire cutters. And then I would take my round nose or my bail step pliers, and I would turn a loop. It depends how you want it to sit. I quite like my loop sitting outwards so it doesn't press against my skin. So you can turn it in the direction of the memory wire and then reposition it, or you can turn it outwards as you go. I'll show you the difference with it. I find sometimes it's easier to turn in the direction of the memory wire. So just making sure that it loops all the way around, like so. And I want to make sure that's fully pushed in, so I've not got any catching bits. And then I do the same on the other side. I only want a small loop, so I'm just going to give it a little turn all the way around to finish it that way. I'll do the same on the other end just so it's nice and matching. So I'm probably going to cut about 1 centimetre, just so I've got enough. Kind of want them even. And then you can use your round nose. They're not quite even now, are they? But I'm using my bail step pliers just because I feel like I get a little bit more sturdier purchase with it. Turning that loop all the way round, just like I would be doing a normal loop really. Just want to make sure it all turns. I've not been looking at the camera, so I hope I've been in shot. And turn. So now I've got 2 little ends like so. If I wanted to, I could add a little chain onto it or something like that. And that is essentially my Meryl crystal wrap bracelet. This is how it sits. So you can see it doesn't go all the way around my wrist. It will go to about there. Just make sure you twist it to shape if you need to. If it started to move a little bit, that memory wire is going to retain that shape. There you go. So this is a bit of a mix. This is the blue and the opal. So I've used 2 colourways to just finish that one off. When I've finished, I'm gonna get that through the last one. I'm gonna fix this one because I've done all the work, all the stitching. It'll just take me a little. I'll probably do it straight away as soon as the camera's not on me. So you can see how it looks if you did want to mix up your colours. Each kit's going to make 2 bracelets. They are, I think they were absolute bargains today. They were just £6.99. So if you wanted to multi-buy, you absolutely could do. You can see just by mixing up the beads and the bicones, the effect that gives. So I'll whiz through the colours with you very quickly again. We have this very pretty pink. We have a lovely green on the gold, like a peridot colour. Gorgeous champagne, which I'm absolutely loving today. We've got the opal, a really beautiful orange, and the blue colourway as well. So lots to choose from. I think that's all of them, and I hope you like them. They are straightforward. I hope I explained it clearly enough, and I hope I stayed in shot. If you've got any questions, do just drop me a comment. I'm on YouTube as Natalie Pattern Jewellery, spelled the English way of spelling it, or British way of spelling it. So you can drop me a comment there and I will respond to you very, very promptly. If not, of course, Totally Beads. So you find us on the Totally Beads YouTube site or Facebook, and I will keep checking the comments so I can answer any questions you might have there. I'll just whiz back into the comments before I go. Can't believe I managed to get that done in under an hour. I'm very proud of myself. It's because I made steps. I spent most of yesterday just making to make sure that, we weren't still stitching now at 11 o'clock. Camille says, thank you, lovely make. Have a great day. Thank you. Thank you to Mina. Joanne says, gorgeous colours. Mina says, lovely bracelets. Jan says, thank you. They're gorgeous. Joanne says, very pretty. My other half said, that's a really fiddly one. He's watching alongside today. It's not. Joanne can do it dead easy. Really, really easy. It's a right angle weave. I made it look more complicated than it was. It really, really isn't. And it's not that long make either. Thank you, Kath. Thank you, Just Me. Thank you, Rachel. Lisa's being very kind. Debbie say, oh, this is pretty. Everyone's being very friendly and very complimentary. I hope I answered you all. Don't forget, if you've got any comments, do just drop me a message. I have been looking into the admin as well. If you want to join the handmade group and you can't, please bear with us, and we will get that sorted for you as soon as possible. I'm going to be back on Wednesday. I'm not sure what I'm making. I think it's a necklace. I'm like 90% sure it's necklace. So if you can come and join me, I'll be here on Wednesday, 10 a.m. UK time. I hope you've all had a very lovely weekend. I hope you all have a lovely start to the week. Thank you for being with me